Well, hello everyone. This is Matt Orozco.
And this is Lowell Greenblat.
We are coming at you again for another lovely edition of Macabre Monthly. It is episode 113, which would be so wonderful if it was 113. It'd be so great if it was 114, um, akin to the month we are currently in, being February. But
Well, I mean, then it would be 214 because then you're just talking about January 14th and
that's true.
what
And
what did we
there's
say about numbers, Matt?
I know. I'm supposed to stay
Just
away from it at
numbers.
all costs. I
Yeah.
have a restraining order against me in numbers. Um, but it is February, and we have another top five to cover. This time it is top five horror romances, bad romances, horror romantic horrors, um, or
Sure.
just anything like horror, romance related in the horror genre. What are our top fives? So kind of be interesting to see where we went with this quite ambiguous last minute top five.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah.
I always stuck to movies because I'm like, if you do the entirety of the horror genre, then this is going to take me forever.
Oh
But
yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's like, I feel like there's more romantic stuff in like horror TV shows and books, really, like your Twilight and such. I'm kidding. Please keep watching. Please, please, we need this so bad. But yeah,
I would agree. There's not a lot of genuine romance in most horror movies. It's like any romance tends to be confined to like straight up intercourse or some very light kind of budding romance, but it's usually not the point of the story as much as it is the a part of it, one
yeah,
might say.
or the gratuitous part sometimes. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, what's new in your world, Lowell?
I am wondering if I'm going to be able. I'm wondering if I should get the Dark Sky Films Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4K or the Second Sight Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4K.
Hmm.
Um, this is the extent of my dilemma. Uh, this
I
this is
bought the
what
turbine one from Germany last year. So here I am being the guy who wished he would have waited,
you and your German. I mean, you have the Frighteners German edition,
which is
which I am.
outstanding. It's outstanding.
Yeah, I hope that they eventually put that out. Someone eventually puts that out. But yeah, but it's got the two extra Region B Blu-rays with the 4K, and I just need the 4K. But I can just get the 4K from Dark Sky, or if I go all in Second Sight, I get a commemorative booklet too, plus I think an extra commentary. So I don't know. As you can clearly see, I do have shelf space,
You do.
but I am always afraid of losing all that shelf space. All it takes is one deep dive into Giallo, and that's
Yeah.
an entire thing up there. That's
Yeah.
all I know. Arrow makes them thick, so yeah, that's what's been on my mind. Been watching movies too, you know. Um, Actually, have to see if I can record on Zoom if I have a free account. I have to figure that out, and I just thought that out loud. That's neither here nor there.
Give us
But
free
yeah,
accounts, Zoom, is what we're trying to say, please.
yeah,
Or give us upgraded free accounts.
yeah, free for us and just infinite Zoom, um, just infinite space. Um, what was I going to say? Movies. I watched movies, as I'm sure you watched movies.
Oh yeah.
Um, some of those movies I have watched. I saw Jeepers Creepers Reborn the other day, and I
Oh,
have to say it is not directed by a child abuser, and that's the best thing about it. So go Jeepers Creepers Reborn.
I'm glad
You
that
did
that
it.
bar has finally been crossed, that we can move on. Because I mean it's been a stain on the history of the series, but
Yeah,
also they're not that good. Um, the second one is all right. The first one's fine. It's fun.
yes.
It's
Is your
fun.
favorite third one?
No, I haven't even seen the third one. I
They're
care
fun.
so little about the series
They're
that
fun.
yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry I even brought up that I watched a Jeepers Creepers movie, even though we've seen the Jeepers Creepers movies. No, it totally sucks.
Oh shit.
Sorry. And it does kind of seem like maybe there was at one point an earnest attempt to make it a reboot that was going to go to theaters, or at least like a better streaming premiere. But just along the way, it just got just it just sucks.
Just
It's
got
like a real
creepered.
yeah, just it's just a really subpar sci-fi movie that's not even worth mentioning, except for the fact that it's Jeepers Creepers Reborn. So I saw that, and I also saw Skinamarink.
Oh,
Um,
so did
the,
I. I don't
the
know if I
sensation.
watched it as much as stayed awake for it.
Well, I mean, I know people were saying you got to watch it like in the dark, you got to
Yeah, I did
watch it at
that.
night, like
Yep.
that will put you to sleep. And listen, some really terrifying imagery, some really interesting ideas. It is not a 100-minute movie. It's not. I mean, honestly, if this was like an internet sensation or even a VHS segment, I would be telling people, "Oh, this is the coolest thing ever. You got to see it." But it's not a narrative. It's not, and even at 100 minutes, like, come on.
We're really
Um,
only the last 30 minutes or the part that are interesting. Like that's the only like the last 20, 30 minutes are where things really seem to be moving in a more rapid pace. But
are
yeah,
we talking about Skinamarink or the Outwaters?
Skinamarink. But that we'll get to
Okay,
that one. We'll get to that
yeah,
one as well.
yeah, okay. I did like that, but and I like Skinamarink too, but just the combination of like the absurd hype about it and the fact that it's just so long and just you know wears out its welcome from time to time. I mean, that phone scared the crap out of me. Just fuck that phone. But yeah, I'll see whatever else this guy does. I think Kyle Edward Ball is his name. Um, but yeah, just
I was pretty mad at it as well. I just wasn't I don't know. This is the problem with the horror hype machine, unfortunately, is that it puts a lot of stock in like vibes and the moment, but like rather than, okay, well, is that a movie or is that like someone's thesis for their film student? Like, I mean, this is not, there's not a story there, but it's cool. Like, it's cool camera tricks, you know? But
yeah,
you're right. It's not 100 minutes of a movie. And I just wanted it like, I don't know. I didn't have an expectation really. Just was like, I don't really know what the hype is about. This looks like a test reel someone would make for like to get a job. And maybe that was the point, in which
yeah,
case, mission accomplished. You
the
know,
proof of concept.
congratulations.
Yeah,
Yeah, proof of concept kind of thing. I hope they don't make a like Skinamarink, like, but like try and like make it more Hollywoodized because I just think you just leave this what it is. Just
mm-hmm.
let's 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 move on from this and say
Yeah.
maybe and let's see
Take
what
what
they
we
do
learned.
with a
Yeah,
movie. Yeah.
yeah. Take what they learned, turn it into something else. So yeah. And I also saw The Outwaters, which I know you saw as well. And I'm going
Yep.
to be interviewing Robbie Banfitch, the director slash writer, cinematographer, actor, playing sort of himself, like the main man behind it. I'll be talking to him tomorrow. And I have to say, this one didn't entirely come together for me overall, but the last half of it, it's like Wolf Creek, where it's like the first half is just all set up, people just hanging out in the desert, and the last half is just insanity, but better insanity than Wolf Creek. And I know we throw around the word Lovecraftian a lot. It seems like with movies like Color Out of Space, which is a Lovecraft adaptation, and Glorious, we like to use Lovecraftian as a new buzzword. This might be like the truest, the film that truly exemplifies the word Lovecraftian, because I feel like reading it is like watching it is like reading a Lovecraft short story. And
Because it
I
deals
mean,
in
it,
ambiguity in
yeah,
like the
a
most
lot.
extreme ambiguity.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that that was the intention. which leads to mixed results a few times. But I mean, there's images from this movie. They're just in there now forever. Like I'm never gonna get them out, and uh, that's got to mean something.
I,
So yeah, just really, really harrowing. It's been described as a visual and auditory assault. And yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's not going to be for everyone, but man, it's I've talking about what the guy from Skinamarink does next. I really want to see what this guy does next because
yeah.
holy shit.
Well, this is I think I like this more than I than I realized, but I agree that it didn't kind of live up to what I kind of thought it could be, largely because it's almost so true to its own aesthetic of being authentic that it makes it almost impossible to know what it is you're supposed to be afraid of or what it is actually happening, which is partially is the point, but also at the same time that kind of takes me as a viewer kind of out of the situation to the point where it's like, okay, um, I'm not scared, but somebody is. But I want to know why they're scared. But I think that there's a lot of, but I also think that suffers from being just too long. Like just like most movies these days, like it's almost 2 hours, I think.
I think it's
And
about a 40, almost as long as Skinamarink. But I mean, if you're going to cut anything out, I would cut it out from the first part initially. I'm good with the second part.
but it does have a very like original Blair Witch vibe in the sense that it does kind of feel much more authentic than most found footage films do. And I do think that that dedication to the aesthetic is kind of well done, like and well executed. But yeah, I just it does go hard pretty early and much sooner than I thought it would, which kind of makes it a, like that's the kind of part I was like, wow, this um it's like if the roller coaster goes on too long, you're like, oh, okay, what's happening now? You know, but
Is it broken? No, it's not broken. And then you go faster and faster, and you're like, oh my God, maybe it's broken. Maybe I'm broken. What is time? What is happening to me?
but I would love to
Yeah.
know what I mean. I'd be curious to listen and read whatever, however you capture your interview, because I'd be curious to know what was intended, if anything, about like what is supposed to be happening, and you know, in more explicit terms. And if hey, maybe that's not the point, that's fine too. But I'm excited to see what he does next, and I think that it certainly creates a visceral sense of like um just insanity that's happening. Like you really feel like you're watching someone go insane, um, and that's special.
And I was waiting for a line of dialogue that was like, hey guys, did you hear the Event Horizon is taking off today? Not really, but like it feels like he took inspiration from those like few quick cuts in Event Horizon that show you what happened to the previous crew. Like he just made a movie out of that. But also Lovecraftian. So I'm excited to talk to him about that. But yeah, just fucking bug nuts, crazy ass movie.
Could totally see that being of like an absolute assault on the senses in a theater where you have like the
Oh,
highest
I could.
quality sound. Like it would be
Oh,
anxiety inducing. Whereas like even at home, I was like, whoa. And for those that are motion sickness or like sensitive to that, or have any sort of visual light sensitivities, may want to stay away, because it's
yeah.
heavy. It's heavy, but it's well made, and that's the hardest thing to do sometimes is to make an interesting found footage movie, that's doing something different. And that ending,
Yeah. Oh my God. Just
you have
and
to
he
see
knows
it.
how to like film disturbing things in daylight too. Just yeah. I guess I kind of loved it.
Yeah, that's what I
Even
mean. I
though
think I liked it more than I thought I did because I
yeah.
give it a lot of credit for being really good at what it does, even though I didn't love the experience. I think it's a well-made movie, like regardless.
Yeah, totally.
Well, what else did you see? Anything else?
Uh, I'm sure I did, but yeah, I saw Knock at the Cabin. Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't seen it.
Have you read the
Should I?
book? That
No, I
uh,
have not.
I would. I would say yes. I do prefer the book, um, and the film follows the book up until a certain point, but then it totally switches things around in the third act. And I'm still wondering if that was. I'm still wondering what exactly was behind that. Like, it doesn't ruin the book. It's just like it's a bold choice of adaptation, and and I'm just like, it's like two roads diverged, and I'm like, why? Like, why did you do that? So yes, it is good. Dave Bautista is awesome. Shyamalan directs the hell out of it. I've seen people say it's his best since Unbreakable. Uh, Not sure about that, but it's definitely top five Shyamalan if we were to do a list. And I know some people would say that that's not really a high bar, but I mean, it kind of is, because when he hits really hard.
He's made a lot of
And
movies too.
yeah, if you think about it, it's like one like every few years. I mean, some that we all want to forget about, like Last Airbender and After Earth. But no, this is a good M. Night Shyamalan movie.
You know
Dare I
what?
say, almost great.
Do you know what I feel like? M. Night Shyamalan movies to me have typically always fallen into this category of me, how I make banana bread. I've been trying to make banana bread for the past 3 weeks, every weekend, and every single time I fuck something up. I don't know how, because banana bread's not that hard to make. But the point of the story is I get these things cooked so well, except there's just this one piece or area that is uncooked. And no matter how long I cook it, it reaches a point where it's like it's been in there an hour and a half. Nothing should bake for an hour and a half. It's that small. So I know this. But everything else tastes good except I can't get this well apart. And that's kind of like most M. Night Shyamalan movies. Like they're actually really good, but there's this one little part that just kind of throws the whole fucking thing off. And either you buy that or you don't. And if you don't buy it, it kind of can ruin the whole movie because everything rests on that one like sliver of film. Wherein like, but if you can, like, it's like old, not great, but it's not bad
Yeah,
either. Like, it's not the worst thing I've
yeah,
ever seen. It's entertaining, and that's what we're going
yeah.
to movies to be entertained, right?
It's not a bad M. Night Shyamalan movie, because I feel like, there are some bad M. Night Shyamalan
The
movies.
Village, yes.
I
That
okay,
premise does not that premise was totally lost
okay.
on me. Like, you're too close.
We
Yeah,
we should probably do our top five Shyamalan movies at some point. But no, like, the dude knows how to make a movie.
does.
Doesn't mean it's a good movie, but he knows how to make a movie, which is why when it is a good movie, like, he knocked it out of the park. So yeah, see it, and then if you don't read the book first, we can talk about the book. But at least, like, it's an adaptation that makes a choice, which is interesting. And the performances are really good.
Like
And
as bold as like Kubrick in The Shining.
no, because Kubrick didn't know what he was adapting. Uh, I mean, he didn't. Like, The Shining is an incredible film, and he's an incredible filmmaker. But that movie is a success almost
Regardless
by,
of.
yeah, regardless of that. But no, not the people. The M. Night Shyamalan and the screenwriters knew the type of movie they were making, and they made it. I'm just a little confounded why they didn't just follow the book, because they could have followed the book exactly, and it still would have been cinematic and like a good adaptation. But it sort of zigs when the book zags. And I mean, I'm still here thinking about it, talking about it. So it did something. I mean, I don't know. I am going to see it again. It might wind up on my 10 of the year list, but
Oh wow.
it's February and there's a lot coming. So we'll
And we
see.
have
But
more
yeah,
Scream 6 advertisements to endure before then.
my God. But tells us absolutely nothing about the movie except that it's apparently a little over 2 hours. Fine. Scream 2 was like 2 hours and 3 minutes or something like that. Cool. Just
Yeah, but Scream 2 wears that 2 hours with ease.
yeah.
That movie is just saccharine. It's so good. Um, well, I will check out Knock at the Cabin. It hasn't. I don't get excited about Shyamalan movies generally, but I do always end up watching them.
Either Yeah, neither do I, but I love the book that's based on, and it's from Paul Tremblay. And when it was announced that he was making this movie, they didn't say it was based on The Cabin at the End of the World until like the first trailer or something. And I was like, oh my God, it's a secret adaptation. So I had to rush out and see it. But yeah, it's good.
Huh?
Batista's great, and it's
Yeah,
not
I love
black.
Bautista. He's just
Yeah,
he seems like a really good dude, but
yeah.
I don't know. Who knows?
He's got my money.
Right on. I mean, I obviously saw Skin and Rake the Outwaters. We talked about those. I did watch another one called The Way Out, which was
Hmm.
directed and written by the guy who started Barry's Boot Camp. So that's an interesting pivot. When you think about horror pivots, maybe where you went back to fitness guru to horror filmmaker, it's okay.
Okay.
It's like a very it's kind of like The Guest, but LGBTQIA plus and less good than The Guest, but the similar premise in some ways.
I
But it's
saw you
not.
playing there.
Yeah,
I
but it's not
appreciate
good.
it.
It's not terrible, but like it's a well made movie, just not a great story. Kind of does a lot, tries to juggle too many balls, you know. But um, that's coming out on Friday. I watched an old movie called Perfect Blue. Um,
Oh, I've never seen it, but I hear it's an incredible anime.
yeah, I'm not I'm pretty ignorant on the anime front, so this was one that I heard I had to check out. And Scream Factory has a pretty nice Blu-ray out that I picked up just blindly knowing that hey, this is probably something I'm gonna enjoy. And it was described to me as kind of a anime giallo, which you know
Mm.
ticks a lot of like boxes for me, especially if I'm trying to dip into a genre that I'm not super familiar with. Nice to start with something you kind of bring some familiarity. And it is pretty much like people that say Darren Aronofsky watched this and then ripped it off for Black Swan aren't wrong. I don't think they're right,
And
but
he took he like purchased the adaptation rights for one shot in Requiem for a Dream, which I always thought was kind of strange, but I'm like, must be worth checking out.
I would have actually loved to see him make an adaptation of this because I think he has the chops to kind of take what animation can make so visual, but to do so in a filmatic way. But yeah, this is definitely worth picking up or checking out. And Yeah, it's a trip. Also watched Beyond the Darkness 3 that just premiered on Shudder over
Oh
like a
yeah,
series of sittings, like many
yeah,
sittings.
yeah. I kept it on while I was doing work. I think it might be my favorite of the
Oh, for
three,
sure,
honestly,
easily.
because I contributed to the Kickstarter for the first, or Indiegogo for the first one, and it was just kind of it was okay, but I think maybe it was because most of those movies had been talked to death already, and like I could just watch like a Bravo's 150 scariest movie moments. Um, but I feel like the more not obscure, but the more away from the mainstream they went with still recognizable movies, or at least recognizable videotapes that we saw in the store when we were kids, it got more interesting. And I definitely added some movies to my list that I wanted to see.
Yeah, could not. They each get better. Like each entry is better than the previous one, and I love that you can just kind of put them on and have them on because they are just kind of this comforting, like helpful, interesting information about things I enjoy. While I'm doing things I don't, and so I was a big fan of it. I kind of wish that they would go back and re-edit it in chronological order altogether as one. I know this is a big ask, this will probably not happen, but I think kind of they probably, this is my presumption that they probably didn't think that this was going to have three entries. And because it does, it kind of means you don't have a strategy or a plan of what's going to make it look, more thought out or cohesive. But to that end, this entry is better because it's more obscure. And it feels like there are less conversations about these movies in particular, which makes it kind of something you want to hear, in general more about. But you should absolutely check out their other documentaries as well. They have one like In Search of Tomorrow for it's like sci-fi movies. They have an
Oh,
action movie one.
In Search of Last Action Hero, yeah, that's another one that I keep on. That one's on Tubi, actually.
Yeah, that's yeah. That one's so good. Like, and I that one is like, if In Search of Darkness is like comfort food, that's like hot chocolate. Like that is like comfort drink. Like that is just like it's a big warm
Yeah.
hug of really really awesome movies that of all the of I'm gonna make this bold statement perhaps now, but 80s action movies have the highest rewatchability of any movie of any time period, any genre.
I can see that.
They're not
And
even bound by time or space because technology's rules don't apply in most of those movies anyway.
yeah, and they have, I think, like, I'm sure if you did like, you know, a tally of like the most in-camera physical stunts for any genre, it would be 80s action movies. And I mean, that even though this is a horror show, the In Search of the Last Action Heroes doc is actually really insightful. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure if you're like an action movie fan, maybe you know a lot of that stuff already. But I didn't know about like Cynthia Rothrock in like Chinese movies versus American movies. I just knew the movie she made at 9 o'clock on a Friday night on HBO, and like I didn't, know the context of like how like Rambo coming up led to like, Nicolas Cage and, actors being action stars later. It was just really cool.
And
Yeah.
I will
Fun
plug
one.
another one that I think just recently left Netflix, but Iron Fist and Kung Fu Kicks also
Oh, it
had,
left Netflix.
yeah.
Oh, that
It,
was a
it
good one.
yeah, that one was always just so much fun as well. And I had so much to like if as long as we keep making documentaries about these obscure things, I'll keep watching them. That to me is
Oh yeah,
just like you can conveyor belt that right into my brain all day, every day. Um,
absolutely. Featuring Grady Hendrix, who co-wrote these Fist Break Bricks, and whose new book, How to Sell a Haunted House, just came out. And who I interviewed on the site, and maybe we can possibly get him to talk about horror fight scenes on our show.
love to
We'll
see
see.
it.
We'll see. Nice dude.
Well, I think that's what we've watched. Let's check out what's happening in the news. As is the case, we do in fact represent a website over here, Macabre Daily. Check us out. Got a few tasty selections. This just is fresh off the press today, right out of Tromaville, is that the Toxic Avenger is getting a 4K UHD collection. This makes me so happy.
Yeah, I've never actually seen any of these, but I had the action figures. I knew the cartoon, but I
The
haven't
Toxic
seen the.
Crusaders.
Yeah, yeah, and there's apparently a movie coming out directed by Macon Blair with Peter Dinklage. That I think was announced years ago. I'm like, what happened to it? But I'm sure it's going to coincide with this somehow.
I I love these movies. I have a very personal connection because he was the first Troma movies I ever saw. I was a Toxic Avenger. I think I was like 12, and it blew my fucking mind. Um, in the strangest ways. And I always felt dirty watching Troma movies, but I still do. But these are so much fun, and all of them are actually. If you like corny movies, um, you can't get any better than these. So I can't wait to see what this is going to be like. Um, we've also got some Constantine 2. It's officially happening. What are your thoughts on Constantine? Are you excited about
Uh,
this?
I wouldn't say excited, but I am curious. I did like that first movie, having
Yeah.
no real knowledge about Hellblazer at all, but I actually thought the first Constantine with Keanu Reeves was actually like a nice surprise. It was kind of cool. So yeah, I'd like to see what they do. I kind of hope it doesn't get folded into the new DC or whatever James Gunn is doing over there. Just let it be separate. Let it be an Elseworld, I guess he's calling it, and just show us more of the world. And I don't care that Constantine looks like Keanu Reeves and not like Sting or whoever he was supposed to. Like it's fine. Just tell a good story. That's
Yeah.
me.
I think this one gets it's one of those movies that if it would have been made like 5 years later with the big leap in CGI that occurred between this and then like later stuff, just a few years after it, it would have been a totally different movie. Because you know, some movies like they have that there's that CGI point where like they just you can't like watching Lawnmower Man. It's really distracting.
Don't compare this to Lawnmower Man,
But
but
that's not, and I love the Lawnmower Man. Okay, it is a complex
yeah,
story that takes a lot of
yeah,
swings and misses a lot of them, but damn if it doesn't hit swing for the fences. Um, and it was kind of right. It might have predicted all the things we're seeing now. But anyway, um, I am confident that James Gunn will not hold this back. So I think that that does give some leeway to make this maybe the more violent version of Constantine that it was supposed to be. I think it was intended to be before. So I'm all about it.
cool.
Have you played the Dead Space remake yet?
I have not played any Dead Space games, but I've always wanted to. Excuse me, I'm definitely gonna check this out. Um, I mean, I've always heard that this is like one of the best survival horror series that I never got to, and yeah, I will get to it.
It's all true. Everything that you've heard, it's all true. I'm playing through it right now, and it is such. I'm actually taking my time because I don't want it to end, and I know it's not the longest story. After completing however like 30 something hours that God of War Ragnarok is, um, but
Yeah,
I do hope that the sales numbers allow them to continue remastering the rest of the series because I actually don't think I played anything beyond the second one. Um, and I think the third one is not
just the
well liked,
third.
but regardless, this is so good. Highly recommend if you love a good horror survival game. It looks great, especially with the updated graphics, and it is all about dismembering, so it's goopy and glorious.
Nice.
And genuinely creepy. If you do play it, put headphones on when you do, if you have them. It does make the experience a little better. Like, do you ever play Alien Isolation?
No, but that's another one I heard was great.
Yeah, that's the same one. Like, if you put the headphones on for it, you can get real immersed in it, and that's a genuinely kind of tense kind of game. I
Mhm.
recommend. But on to some flashbacks from the past. We uh we have
Why?
we have
I'm
the
sorry.
Prince Jr.
Yeah. Uh, I
A new
mean,
sequel. A new sequel. So this is part of the existing continuity, not the TV show that Amazon was behind.
or presumably the I always know what you did last summer, which featured the fisherman's ghost killing people in a Colorado town, which is totally landlocked and is just absolutely terrible, and decided to go supernatural. Um, Look, I don't know where else you're going to go with this. No one really liked. I still know what you did last summer. Is it going to be called "I Know What You Did That Summer" or "I Remember What You Did That Summer"?
Hey, these are free
I,
ideas you're giving them, Lowell. These are free
I
ideas.
trademark Lowell Greenblat. Look, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Let it come out and be good, and then it'll show me. I'm always willing to be showed, but like, no one wants this. No one asked for it. Challenge accepted.
But
If
this is
the
studio
writers are
thinking, though.
passionate about it, great.
But this is like you and I are old enough to know that we've been through this before when Scream happened. Although Scream was a much more controlled explosion of similarity because you just got a lot of Scream type replicas like I Know What You Did Last Summer,
Yep.
um, like Valentine and Urban Legend. But in this case, we're now just getting an explosion of horror again. So now everything's game, but now it's nostalgia's game. It's all about requeling, and I can't believe I just said it. I've been trying so hard not to say it. I told myself I wouldn't,
It's
but
2023. It's the requels have
it's
us now.
I know, and I don't want to admit it, but I think that that's like we're in that phase. This is our requel era of horror where we're going to get a lot of regurgitated, unnecessary sequels to things that are just being drudged up franchises. And I hope that maybe someone's bold enough to take some franchises like The Burning, perhaps, and be like, hey, let's see what Cropsy's been up to. Like I wouldn't be opposed to a Cropsy zombie a la Jason parts, Friday the 13th part 6, Jason Lives. I don't know. But
Yep.
I'm not looking forward to this. Although I did just buy I Know What You Did Last Summer on 4K, so I have been meaning to rewatch that.
Yep.
And I remember liking it, but it's been so long, so I don't
You
know.
know, I saw it like twice in theaters, and I have to say there was a hot second, maybe a month in 1997, like the month after it came out,
I know
where
what
I
you're gonna
thought it
say.
was better than Scream. I'd like to apologize to everyone I have hurt with that remark. It is not better than Scream, and I hope we can all move
Yeah,
on
you're working
from
on
this. I will
yourself.
say, I, yeah, I'm doing the work. I'm putting in the hours. I do have one request for this, and I mean, going back to Urban Legend and Valentine, let Jamie Blanks direct this because he was
Hey,
up. He was. I don't know if you know the story, but he made like a proof of concept video for I Know He Did last summer, and to get the job to direct it, and they passed him over, but they still like based the movie off of that proof of concept, and they went back to him and they were like, we're sorry, here's Urban Legend." And then that was a hit, and it was Valentine. But it kind of feels like that was the lost movie that he never got to make. And I mean, he's one of the guys for like the Scream like slasher films. So give it back to him. Let's have some fun.
yeah, I think between if if I hear the names Kevin Williamson or Jamie Blank involved with a slash movie, I already feel a little better about
Yeah.
what I'm about to see. So, um, moving on to more DC news, James Mangold of Logan is going to, or in talks to direct a Swamp Thing movie for DC. Did you ever watch the Swamp Thing TV show that they put out?
The new one or the one from the 90s?
The new one, but I love the one from the 90s.
I barely remember the one from the 90s, but the new one I haven't seen. I was going to, but then I heard it was canceled before the first season ended, and it ends on kind of a cliffhanger, and I just didn't want to do that to myself. But I mean, he's always been an interesting character. Alan Moore's run on it is incredible. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I'm still waiting
I'll,
for a valid Alan Moore run at the show that's more kind of philosophical and pondering. But I'm excited for this. I love Swamp Thing. I love all the iterations of Swamp Thing. I need to watch the show. I think it was limited to only like the DC streaming service for a while, and I
before.
still don't think it's on HBO Max either. Like I don't think it's I don't know if they have the rights. So it's like it's weird. You can't really watch it the way you can other DC content. So
But you can buy the Blu-ray because Savage State Media, baby.
you know what? Give me the 4K and I'll buy it.
Oh, big media. Yeah.
Since I know that like we were making this in 4K technology, don't sell me the Blu-ray. I'm looking at you, A24. Stop doing this shit where you put out the Blu-ray and then you fucking withhold the 4K from us. This is like physical media edging. On to
Yeah.
more 4K news. One of my favorite Wes Craven movies, People Under Stairs, getting the 4K treatment. Could not be happier about this.
Oh, they released the specs. Is there is there anything new there besides the transfer?
It
I don't
doesn't
know.
look like it, but I don't know if
This
these are final yet.
okay.
Announced
This
at this
is
time.
okay. This is this is where I don't know about upgrading for 4Ks because if it's just the same with a new transfer, I mean, if it's an older movie and it's already on Blu-ray and it's got a 2K or a 4K scan, how much better can it be in 4K? Like I don't know. I mean,
My honest opinion is it depends on the TV you have. Because if you have the newest TV technology, you will absolutely be able to tell a difference and it will be a life-changing experience. But the flip side of it, if you don't, like I have another TV right here, it's older TV. I admit, do I need everything to be 4K now? No. But movies that I love, I want to have in the penultimate format. This
yeah,
this falls under that for me because of how much I love this movie. But it is, I do hope that we get a retrospective of some sorts, like especially considering how ahead of its time. Well, I don't even know if ahead of its time. It was very relevant to its time, but how persistent the themes in this movie still are, and actually are today around landlords and um, you know
rent hikes,
yeah,
and
in housing inequality and access to housing.
mhm.
So I don't know. It's but I do I'll be buying it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you don't already have this movie or you haven't seen it, go out there and watch it. It's great. It's
Yeah.
top five Wes Craven, as we talked about when we did our top five Wes Craven. Um, yeah, it just when it comes to rebuying films that I already own the Blu-ray for, like I better see a marked improvement just for me.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a complete cuck for the physical media. So last one, because I know you're I know we're both fans of Attack the Block.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
looks like the sequel is going for an Aliens Terminator 2. So that just means they're going to be doubling it up, right? I mean, that's more action,
More of them.
more of
Yeah.
them. I'm excited. I don't think we have a release date yet, but I am
I
curious
don't
to
know if they have
see.
a script, but yeah, I mean, I will watch the hell out of this. I'd love to see it. I don't know what it's going to be, and I don't mean that in a bad
Yeah,
way. Like the first one just seemed kind of so self-contained, and when it was over, it was over. So how would you even do that? I mean, I always thought, way back when, if they were going to do a sequel, they shouldn't do an actual sequel, but just show like, because I guess it
Attack
would be
Another
America.
Block.
Yeah, or like no, but show what's happening in America while this is happening. Like show an American apartment complex while this is happening in England, and it's like how the different people, how people from different parts of the world react to it. But that's just my weird fanfic idea. But yeah,
It's a solid idea.
thank you.
Well,
But yeah,
I'm looking forward to this. I'm curious to see. You know, John Boyega is quite a bit older now, um, so I do hope that they don't rely entirely on him. I imagine this will be more of those. We're going to introduce a new cast of characters because everyone is so much older and grown up, especially if you can't get everyone to return. But hey, it's probably too early to tell because we have a very detailed treatment and storyline we're very, very excited about, which means, as you said, no script yet. So um, anything's possible. Nothing's committed,
mhm.
except we're getting committed to the top 5 horror romances of all time. Hey, so um, I'll take a stab at describing this because it is somewhat ill-defined, even in our text conversations leading up to this. But the way I took a stab at this was any notable romance that occurs in a horror movie that sticks out. What are my favorite ones? What are the ones that I think are most interesting? Maybe sometimes most funny. But I did stick within the film range. So was that your interpretation, or did I not share this and I all had this all in my head and this is all news?
No, I mean, I did just the films because, like I said, if I'm looking at other media, I can find maybe 10 really. And I don't know what that is. Maybe it's just like the medium of film, like you have only so much information to get across. And if you're making a horror movie, you usually skimp on the romance. But yeah, I picked my brain and I found five. I didn't order them, but pretty content with my list.
Well, it's because romance is a genre of itself, right? Like in horror is kind of has this transient nature where you can mix it with a lot of other genres, and kind of still get it still, but the horrorness of it all still persists, you know, kind of like mixing with the primary color or something like that. So anyway, let's start with the first one on your list. Like no orders on these, so we'll just go and where you want to start.
It's weird because I don't consider this movie a horror movie really, but it is. It definitely falls under the banner of macabre. It's in a genre of its own, and that genre is Tim Burton. And I went with the Maitlands from Beetlejuice. Uh, Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin, who I always forget are Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin in this movie. I mean, it's not like they're under really heavy makeup like Michael
They're
Keaton,
so
who I
young,
also forget is Beetlejuice in that
so good.
movie.
Beetlejuice is the best Michael Keaton performance of all time. I will not take any other question. I will not take questions.
Yeah,
That's
no, it's known. It's known. Um, but yeah, just except for like Winona Ryder, Jeffrey Jones, and Catherine O'Hara. I always forget everyone else who was in that movie is in that movie. I just remember that I love it. I'm like, holy shit, is that Robert Goulet? What's Robert
It
Goulet?
is Robert Goulet.
And he's there. That's him. But yeah, they're just like a hapless, loving couple who, are just by each other's side all the way to the end and back. And it's just, their marriage like kind of anchors the movie a little bit. And it's nice. They're
Sweet.
believable. Yeah. And not like overly saccharine and like I don't know why the Broadway play kind of backgrounded it a little bit to make Lydia the main character. I love Beetlejuice the musical, but I'm like, it's the Maitland story, guys. Come on. But yeah, that is one of mine.
Yeah, they're a
What
beautiful
about
couple. Um, I'm going like totally opposite of the sweet saccharine into something just kind of visceral and weird. Basket Case 2, Frank Henenlotter's
you know?
classic sequel.
I've never seen 2 and 3, but I always wanted to. But I
Well,
love.
they're like peas in a pod because 2
Yeah,
is like 3 is just the continuation of 2, but in the best
yeah, it's
possible
like
way.
one kind of thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Belial and Eve. Who would
Hmm.
think that the brother Belial would find love, and he certainly does. And you get this is pre South Park. You get some puppet on puppet sex that you're sure not to forget anytime soon. And if anyone is no stranger to embedding some level of romance into his films, it's Frank Henenlotter. If you kind of think about, he actually had is it Bad Romance? I think it was called, um, or Bad Chemistry or
Uh,
something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
And
It's a
then
little. Mhm.
I mean, Basket Case is trying to find love the whole time. Is the whole point of it. Frankenhooker. So there's elements there, but yeah, this is the strangest couple you're likely to see. That's for sure.
Yeah, I have to get on those. I remember seeing retrospectives about the sequels, but never actually seen that.
They're
But I
fun.
should. Yeah. Next is and I realize that all of these are kind of heteronormative and pretty white and straight. I mean, I'm sure there's ones that like from an LGBTIA plus Q perspective that were really meaningful and stood out to people. But I'm like, damn, I'm pretty lily white. But I still stand by it because they spoke to me. So next on my list is Bev and Ben from It, who are a like a child romance that eventually led to modern day. And in both adaptations of It, they call back to each other. And yeah, whether it's Annette O'Toole and John Ritter, Jessica Chastain, and I forgot his name, but it's they're in a lot of ways the beating heart of Stephen King's It, and it always just kind of touched me, especially as like a fat kid back in the day and still today. But yeah, and all I just love that like he writes her poetry, and it's like it's in it's intentionally bad, but it's bad in such a specific way that Stephen King knows so well that just like colors like the whole thing. So yeah, Bev and Ben.
It's authentic, right? It's like very. It's very. Yeah, it's just innocent It's this innocent romance in the midst of all this kind of other terrible shit happening around them. Um, but to your point you started with real briefly, I think that some of that is also we just aren't. I imagine if we were to do this in 10 years, we might have a different list because the representation, especially in the horror genre, which has notoriously been known for killing off its minority and LGBTQIA plus characters very early on. um I think we will get more diverse coupling in the horror. I mean, we're already seeing it. I mean, the way
I feel
out.
like they're out there already. There aren't ones that I can think of, but I'm sure like you know to you know a lot of queer teenagers found those queer horror movies growing up, and they're like, well, I was gonna say Ginger Snaps, but like that doesn't even count because they're sisters. But like something like that, where it's like it's been there the whole time, the
Yeah.
whole time. the whole time. As Sally Field says in Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm just like, I need to go and find them. But honestly, finding five that I remembered was like, you know, I sort of scratched the inside of my brain enough for this one. But yeah, there will be more to look for.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
well,
Yeah.
my next one is Candyman, with Daniel Robitaille / the Candyman Helen, because that is a love story. You know, it is. It's more about lust maybe than love, but it's a love story.
I've never. People keep saying that, and yes, it is gothic and it is romantic, but to me, it was never a love story. Like, or at least it was like a one-sided, like,
It's not a well-told love story, that's for sure. It's not like the love story part of Candyman is not the best part of it. It is a part of it, but um, I attribute it more to the mythology behind Candyman's character, and that he was made that way because he was sleeping with a woman. I forget whose wife, but someone's wife.
it was no someone's daughter, like
Someone's
a
daughter.
white landowner's daughter, and he got her pregnant, and that's when the lynch mob came and killed him horribly.
So, like,
Yeah.
if this is our first introduction to him, we kind of presume that maybe that's the you know, that's the way about it, is that he has this some sort of sensual connection to the person that he possesses. Who knows? It's not, again, it's not really well articulated, but it is, there is a tenderness there. There is an affection there, and it's a little more obvious than most relationships between a quote unquote final girl, and you know, a quote unquote slasher. And I'm using quote unquotes there large because you can't really call Helen a final girl as much as you know could call Candyman a slasher. They dance around those topics gingerly, but they are not defined by them. So yeah,
Yeah.
Candyman.
Great movie though. Great.
Yeah, great movie.
Uh, for me, I went with might seem kind of out of left field, but it's just stuck with me from this film. And like, you know, this is sort of a bench. I'm building it up. This is like a benchmark in horror, but people don't really talk about this aspect that much. But Flyboy and Fran from Dawn of the Dead, the original. You know, it's the guy and his pregnant girlfriend, and two other guys in the mall, and you know her pregnancy is kind of like this ticking time bomb a little bit. You know, it's like what's going to happen when she gives birth? Like, what are they going to do? And I feel like this relationship, you know, you get the sense they really care for each other, and she's precious cargo, and he's doing what he can. But I feel like this relationship is the basis for a lot of parts of The Walking Dead that brought through people's humanity. Like, it's just a very real relationship and a very real couple. It felt like a very real couple in a really insane situation. And like, you know, them not giving in and giving up no matter how much other people would, you know. For me, it would be the zombies getting the pies thrown at them, where I'd be like, all right, the real world is gone. But yeah, it's just, you know, it's tender and it's got some sad moments, some pathos. So went with that.
It's very real because there's almost kind of a resentment too. Like, you can, you know, in the beginning of the movie, especially, Flyboy kind of almost disregards her, um, and and she stands up for herself and makes her kind of, she inserts herself so that she doesn't get forgotten. Um, and he's almost kind of threatened by that. Like, there's a lot of interesting sexual politics happening in that movie, particularly because no one's actually, like, there's no competition for her either. But to that end, like, it is one of the most real, I think, representations of a relationship on in a horror movie, because it isn't all rosy flowers for them. Like, there's a lot of like very serious, hard conversations about having a child in a world like this, and you know, um the general kind of anxiety that comes with her wanting to learn how to fly, so that in case he dies, and how shocking that is to him to hear for the first time. um if people haven't seen Dawn of the Dead, they should absolutely fucking watch it, because there's so much in it to chew on. But yeah, love that. My next one is Mandy, which
Oh,
again, very much a love story, with Red and Mandy. Red being trying to get his. It's almost like if Super Mario Brothers was mixed with Hellraiser and mushrooms. Like that's exactly what Mandy is. It's like Red is essentially Mario. He's got to go save his princess Mandy, and the way he goes about it, he's got to fight a Bowser of sorts and his minions, and it just is much more visceral and weird than that. But um, even though it's not a romantic movie.
They are a romance. They are a couple.
Yeah, they are a couple. Like the first 30 minutes of the movie is establishing that they are in fact in love and that they are happy together. So yeah, that was my number 3, and a good reminder to rewatch Mandy. Also, I noticed my list is heavily consisted of movies that are post 1990, so I didn't really dig too far back in my decades, unfortunately.
I just dug around and
Because I went
came
all the way
up
up to
with.
King Kong on my list, but I didn't put it on there because you know it's bestiality.
Ah, but
It's there.
coitus doesn't need to happen for it to be
It's
romantic.
intimate.
But
Yeah, it's in. There's intimacy.
yes, it is. It is. It is true. It is true. Have you seen Bones and All yet?
I knew you were going to ask me this because I feel like I've been telling you I'm going to see it. I was going to watch it last. The answer is no, but I was going to watch it last weekend and I forgot to order it on Vudu. It's happening this weekend.
Okay, good. Because Marin and Lee, the main characters of Bones and All, played by Taylor Russell, I believe, and Timothy Chalamet. Just a very, sweet young couple on the run. It's weird. It's like the film is more of like a coming of age road trip movie with cannibalism in it, but the cannibalism is horrible enough to remind you that it's not just like a sweet kids on the run kind of movie, but like you really feel for them. And it kind of feels like, I've said this before, but it almost feels like a sequel to Let the Right One In, or like maybe like the idea for Bones and All came from that conceit of like what happens after Let the Right One In. And it's apparently based on a YA novel, but I
Yeah.
can't imagine what that novel is like once I've seen the movie. I'm really curious. But yeah, just good performances, great connection with the kids, and very watchable.
Yeah, I am gonna watch check that out this weekend, and I did know it was based on a YA novel. I haven't read it, but I don't know how true it is, but that is quite interesting. Um, but talk about horror pivot. The guy keeps pivoting, so and I'm here for it. He can
There, that, yeah.
keep doing it. I think the next one I had on my list was Return of the Living Dead 3, a classic Brian Yuzna joint with good
Still
old
haven't
Kurt.
seen it. I know I have to.
Oh man, Kurt and
It's
Julie.
his best movie, right? Apparently, yes.
I have a hard time saying what is Brian Yuzna's favorite best movie because I haven't actually thought about it. But it's probably one of his. I don't know because I love Society. I think Society took a lot of balls to make. So,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I have to think about that. But
Okay.
we also could because Dolls is also a great movie as well.
That's Stuart Gordon, though, right?
No, that's Brian. No, Wade.
Are
Stuart
you sure?
Gordon.
Right? It's always confusing. Which one is Stuart Gordon? Which one is Brian?
Yuzna produced it, but Gordon
Yeah.
directed it. So anyway, Return of the Living Dead 3. I actually watched this last night because it had been so long since I'd seen it. It still holds up. It's so gross. Like it's Yuzna's stamp of grotesque approvals all over it. It has almost nothing to do with the other two films in the sense that there's just the trioxin, but that's really just it's a much smaller movie than the other two in the sense that you don't have a full town. And it really is about a guy who, guy's girlfriend dies and he brings her back to life with it. And, that ensues. So a much more violent version of a movie, My Boyfriend's Back, which I think came out around the same time in like 94. But it doesn't go near as hard as Return of Living Dead 3. So tons of fun, especially if you love good old gross out stuff. Can't go wrong. And there's a great Vestron Blu-ray out as well.
Cool. I actually have Return of the Living Dead 2 in addition to Return of the Living Dead 1. And like I just bought that sight unseen because I saw it a lot when I was a kid on HBO. And as soon as Scream Factory said they were releasing part 2, I'm like, I need that. I don't know if I've watched it all the way through. But I watched the special features, and everyone's like, the catering was good. Like, I'm like, maybe I should just stick with the first one. But I did remember loving it like a
Okay,
lot when I did.
this is not unique to you because same. But here's the thing: there is a much more interesting story about the Return of the Living Dead 2, and it has to do with Lorimar Pictures and how Lorimar Pictures ended up getting the hold of Return of the Living Dead Part 2 as the film that they were going to, I think, launch their company with, or one of the like big.
And they're
Like it
like
was
a family company or something,
yes.
right? Family entertainment.
So like they had to take this like probably R-rated script and make it into this family. So in that way, I think why you and I connected with it as kids, particularly, is because it is like it's like why you love the Monster Squad. It's a horror movie made for kids that isn't pandering to kids. And Return of the Living Dead 2 is essentially Return of the Living Dead without gore. And without harsh language. Like and even there is some like still some harsh language. And there's some good like character moments like the kids actually kind of even though he's a little bit of a shit like he's engaging enough like their situations are so silly and obtuse that you're just like all right, well, it's kind of like watching a like clowns, but not like Cirque du Soleil clowns, like actual circus clowns. Just like okay, this is there's something appealing to this, but I don't know what it is. But it doesn't age well because of the lack of gore. The gore would have made it a far more entertaining movie, but it's
Yeah.
been sanitized. So thanks a lot, Laura Mar.
Thanks.
Uh,
I lost. Are we up to my last one?
yes.
Okay. Um, I went with Dewey and Gale from the Scream series.
Was almost going to put this on.
From the Scream sequel specifically, because it's not really a romance in the first one. She's just using
It's
him.
the spark.
Yeah, but they rebound in two and in three, and of course they were married in real life, so it feels
Tracks.
believable. But they have great chemistry, and it's like you do eventually believe that this like hotshot reporter is falling for this good old boy, deputy from a small town, and I mean their relationship is one of the best parts of Scream 4. I'm
Yep.
thinking maybe I should rewatch Scream 4, but like then I'm like, I don't have to rewatch Scream 4. But I do remember it was definitely a highlight. They just have really good repartee. I'm sorry they weren't in the new Scream as much, but we got a little bit with them, and you can see the spark was still there. So yeah, and like I said, these aren't really in any order, but yeah, Dewey and Gale. It's kind of curious how Scream 6 is going to be with that and with him and Nev Campbell not in it, But it's honestly, it's the new generation's movie. So
I mean, the best part about Scream 5 was the the ending they gave Dewey, not just not the way he
yeah,
went out, but more kind of the leading up to that. And I think that the bookend it put on their relationship kind of highlights the tumultuousness of it all, like how up and down and how much of a roller coaster it's been from the start. And so I think in that way, like how persistent that romance has been amongst all the change in the series. That's it. That's one of the few things I was like, oh man, that's a bummer. Like it's a bummer. I'm not going to see them interact again. But definitely one of the best, most high profile romances and on horror. But I went with a strange one on the last one. Probably the most depressing movie of all time, though, and it's 2002's May from Lucky McKee. And
I thought you were going to put Frank and Julia on here somewhere, but
that's a bad romance right there and altogether. That's
yeah,
hardcore lust. And I have a list of like I had Nightbreed, like I had a bunch of ones that didn't make the cut on here, but May is the first one that came to mind.
yeah, great movie,
Great.
absolutely fantastic. But wait, between her and the creation, or her and Jeremy Sisto,
There's
or
three. There's Sisto, there's Polly, the girl who she has an affair with, and then
oh
there's
yeah,
then she like thinks that she's the forget the name of the doll. But
mm,
yeah, you know what I mean. But like she essentially gets dumped twice like the first time she bites Jeremy Sisto and he's like freaked out. Then she has this affair, and all of a sudden she comes back and that person's being unfaithful. Polly's being unfaithful, so she's just like fucking giving up, right? So it's just you feel bad. And Angela Bettis is so good at like gaining your sympathies through this process because she's just so like you want her to succeed so much. You want her quirkiness to like thrive. You want someone to appreciate the like you just want her to do well, and like it doesn't go well. And it's such a sad movie. And I still to this day don't understand why it hasn't gotten a proper Blu-ray release in North
Yeah,
America. And like why like more people don't talk about it because it's such a it's maybe it's because it's a hard movie to watch. It's because it is fucked up, like from a lot of ways. But it's just emotionally like there's Dead Girl, which is like fucked up to watch because of the content. Then there's May, which is fucked up to watch because it emotionally breaks you down. It's like, ugh, I just want this person to have a nice life, and that's not going to happen, is it?
yeah. It's like made for Scream Factory. I mean, I think the initial DVD had a bunch of commentaries on it, so there are features, but give it a give it some shine, man. Even
Give
if
me a
not a
Lucky
full,
McKee box set. Like, give me like a Lucky McKee, all of his movies that he did in a box set, because and get him back to making movies because I don't know. He was on. There was something to it. It's almost like Ty West. You know, him and Ty West were kind of coming up, becoming relevant at the same time, and I don't know what happened. Maybe Lucky McKee got because he ended up doing a Master Horror episode, didn't he?
yeah, and he adapted. He worked with Jack Ketchum a lot before his death.
Oh
So
yeah, and
yeah,
those movies will break you. Like The Girl Next Door, The Woman. Ugh.
oh, I can't even watch The Girl Next Door, but the woman. I even read.
Did you read the
He
book?
wrote. Yeah, he. I didn't read the book of The Girl Next Door. I'm like, I
Ugh.
heard the story, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need to watch the fictionalized version of that. But the woman he co-wrote with Jack Ketchum the book and the film that it was based on. And it's really interesting. The book is crazy, but
Arrow has a great release of The Woman out, by the way. There's a great Blu-ray they have out.
yeah, but I think it's region locked. But it comes with Offspring, his other adaptation, which I remember I liked. I like the books. I think better than the movies in that case. Like Off Season, Offspring, and The Woman. I read like all three back to back when I was on vacation once. It was crazy vacation reading, but it's good. It's good.
Dark
Good
vacation reading.
ties in. Yeah, really messed up. But
Jack Ketchum stuff is like true crime, but it's not real. You know, it's I guess The Girl Next Door was based on a true story, but
yeah, some of it's not like supernatural or more earth based, but yeah, he knew how to write some crazy shit.
yeah. Well, that's our top 5 bad romances, horror romances, whatever we want to call them. And I don't know what we're gonna do next month, but I'm sure we'll figure that out. And we'll probably get this posted before Valentine's. So for those that celebrate, celebrate. For those that don't, don't.
Good luck with those dinner reservations or whatever you do to keep the sparkle alive.
Yeah, and use your local florist. Don't use Teleflora whenever possible. But with that, be good. Kiss your loved ones and watch horror movies. Adios.
Later.